What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fully Vetted Show. I'm Jordan Riley, and I've got Matt Dodge with me today.
Matt Dodge.
Matt.
No, it's Dodge. When I'm on your set, you call
Just
me
straight up Dodge.
Call me whatever you want, man.
So
just don't call me late for dinner.
So today we're going to talk a pretty serious topic, but something that actually popped up to you, right? You kind of sparked the whole idea because you had a kind of something happen just in passing with somebody that kind of gave this for you as a civilian, it kind of was forefront to your day, and all of a sudden you were like, well, I want to know more about this, or I want to talk about it.
Well, as doing this show, just naturally I start to empathize, but I also start I feel like I'm becoming kind of a veteran a little bit because I hear your vernacular.
It's like well versed in.
I'm a veteran without going through the shit. Yeah. But I hang around you a lot. I mean, that's why you want to hang around people doing better than you, because you're by osmosis. Yeah. You're going to rise up. Yeah. So I naturally kind of feel like I have some ownership in veterans simply because of this show,
right? Yeah.
Which has been really cool. But no, I was working out, and I had a girl from the gym who works at the gym, shout out Jana, who came up and said, hey, do you guys ever do serious topics on Fully Vetted? And I was like, yeah, man, I think they're all, I mean, it's a variation, right?
There can be. Yeah.
It's not like, hey, this is the depressed episode.
Right,
you know?
right, yeah.
But I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, what's up? And she goes, well, do you remember so-and-so? And I was like, the name doesn't ring a bell, but I could forget your name, but remember your batting average in middle school.
Sure,
it's weird. Yeah. I can remember those.
I'm better with faces anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And she said, well, this so-and-so, he used to work here, and he just recently committed suicide. He was a former Marine, I believe. If I don't want to butcher it, and I also don't want to blow his spot up because, obviously for the family, but I remember she was distraught the Friday before. This was on a Monday. I knew something happened. But he had a newborn, another child, was married, and committed suicide. I want to say he was in his mid to late 20s. And he actually, they always say that when someone actually commits suicide, I would have never saw that coming.
Yeah.
Because it's over before you know it, right? You hear about them dead, not hear about them thinking about it.
Right.
But he actually was doing work with veterans to prevent suicide. And it just goes to show, now I'm not saying he was a phony, but he recognized the issue in himself.
Right. His passion was that because he had a struggle too.
Yeah. And ended up committing suicide, and it made it real. It made it more real, but that was the closest. I mean, my brother fought in Iraq, and God bless, thank you, he's not suicidal or anything like that. Yeah. But for that, it was kind of like a couple degrees of separation. And
you're nothing's real until it happens to you.
Yeah, so it becomes real, right?
When you see it firsthand, you're like, wow.
17.9 people who died from car crashes before 9 doesn't become real until someone dies in a car crash.
And all of a sudden, everyone's dying.
You're like, holy hell, cars are dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I talked to you about it, and I'm like, man, I want to. And she asked if we would actually talk about it, because she's like, I need to. She now has this sense of urgency, because she's like, how many guys do I know just like that?
Right.
Who are struggling with something, and seemingly for him, he would be like the shining star. Like, this guy, he's so not thinking about this. That
if anyone would have made it through a struggle, it would have been him.
He's helping others.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the doctor who's sicker than their patients. And
well, that's one of the strange things about veteran suicide too, is that when you think of people that can overcome adversity, usually if your sibling or your spouse or somebody that you're really good friends with is in the military or was in the military, you always think of if anyone can get over this, if anyone can come through this, if anyone's strong enough to go the distance, it's that guy. And then statistically, they're the ones that are actually the most likely to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, suicide is a perverse just lie that this is the better way out.
Yeah.
However, veterans compared to civilians are at a higher clip, right? So that's, you know, it's not as if every other person you know is committing suicide. It's kind of statistically irrelevant when you look at the grand population, but it just feels, it's like something that, it's like a kid getting killed out on a highway. You're just like, God, what the hell?
Yeah.
Could have been prevented, man.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I think that's a good point, because I think that a lot of, maybe not all, because maybe the math isn't there for it, but I think that a lot of them can be prevented. I think a lot of it is preventable. I think that, like you hit on it earlier, by saying that it's a long-term solution to a short-term problem.
Permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Permanent solution to a temporary problem. And everybody, whether you're a veteran or a civilian, no matter what your background is, goes through temporary problems in life. Everybody's got problems in life. Money problems, marriage problems, even just when it comes to you in your own head, problems that you may manifest that aren't even real problems that you just can't seem to overcome.
That's a problem. I have no problems.
Yeah, I need
to manufacture a problem.
Yeah, and that's our society. Everything's been so good for so long that we're starting to get to the point where we're like, I need to make a struggle because everything's been so easy. And I think that a lot of it is preventable, but it really is like nail on the head. It's a short-term problem. Your life is very long, So to think that you need to stop the game 25% through because you can't pass one level means that the rest of the game wasn't awesome, and you should have just tried to get through that one level so you could play the rest of them and just at least see what happens. And you may hit another problem a few levels down the road, but it's just the fact that this is the one that you think you can't make it past. I think one of the strangest things, and we were talking before this, one of the strangest things to me was that you've overcome so much. You've gone through some of the biggest struggles of your life in the military, and then to have these struggles afterward, and it's like, well, what is it that led to this being the point at which you broke? Like, how did you overcome all of these things? If you kind of looked at it on paper, and you laid out all of the things that you've done, how did you overcome all of that? And then one of the things that we have to identify is what led to this point and what brought you to the place where you thought that you couldn't overcome this too. It's an anomaly in the entire situation that no one's been able to quite pin down to make it preventable. Because right now we can say it's preventable, but it's really not, because statistically no one's preventing. It's still happening. So it's like, how is it that we haven't been able to find a way to make it preventable?
And I don't think it's ever going to. I mean, the goal would be zero.
Sure, but
you get what I'm saying. That's the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost predictable and preventable at the same time, right? We're seeing a pattern for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Now, statistically speaking, it's very unlikely you're going to die from suicide. Just from this is how many people die. This is how many people are alive.
Right.
It's very, very small, but in the cases there are, for veterans, it's much more prevalent. I can empathize a little bit as a former professional athlete. If you ask people, what do you think of pro athletes once they get done playing, people actually have pity. They're like, man, they were so great at something that was such a temporary time. And it's like I always say, nobody's paying me to kick a football anymore. So it's like that skill, that God-given talent, feels like, what was that for?
That huge part of your identity.
It was like a gift and a curse. Suddenly something that was so valued for military, my ability to kill the enemy, I was given awards for doing that.
Right.
And now I'm over here, and now I'm almost looked down. I get like, don't act like that now. You're in polite society.
Right, yeah.
It's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
People thanked me for doing that while I was doing it, and now people are like, whoa, you're damaged goods. You can't do that.
Can't really fit in doing that anymore. Yeah,
so I think maybe on this show, you can talk from you've got a before-after, right? Mm-hmm. Before you were in the military, the veteran, but also you have a before-after of being an immediate veteran which you shared some stuff off camera, which like, hey man, I look like I got it all. It's all figured out now, but there was some time there where you're like, what's the point?
Yeah, there's, I guess, everybody's a little different. I mean, I knew plenty of people that couldn't wait to get out of the military. They were just so sick of whatever they were doing, or the structure, or, you know, people. You said something earlier that was kind of profound when it comes to all this, was that there's actually freedom within the system. Freedom within the system, where you don't realize how much freedom you actually do have, in the sense that when I got up in the morning, I would put on, you know, because I lived off base, so I had to drive into work, but, you know, work would start, we'd have like a PT at 5 a.m. where we'd go do something, you know, physical. So I'd put on the PT gear, drive into work, show up to my unit, do whatever we had to do, go shower, change, put on the uniform, same uniform every day. You know, you'd go do your work, whatever that was. You know, for me specifically, it was had to do with training. You take Marines to the armory and pull up machine guns and do gun drills, or you know, work on teaching courses on infantry tactics or some sort of knowledge. And there was all this work day cut loose, hit the gym, do some weightlifting, eat, buddies come over, we all hang out, drink, do our thing. You know, it became this routine. And I never had to think about anything. It was like, we know what we're doing. I know what I'm wearing. I know what I'm eating. You go to the chow hall, you eat the same, you know, 20 meals in the year that you eat throughout the year. And it just becomes so easy. It took a
lot of the guesswork out.
And you don't have to think about anything other than what you're supposed to do. And then in your free time, you do have the freedom to, when, you know, in your free time, you're pretty well taken care of. You're fed, you're clothed, you're housed, you have money. You're just do whatever you want in your free time.
You actually enjoy that free time so much more because of the other structure.
Sure, yeah. Right? Your free time becomes more precious.
When you get done, now everything seems like free time.
You don't even have to go to work.
I used to go to the gym at this time. It's like, I guess I still could, but there's no consequence.
Right.
I mean, not.
If I skip today, it's no big deal.
Yeah, and that can, so I think that's a big thing for veterans, for former athletes, for anyone, you know, because the higher level you go up in sports, it's very structured. We had the sheets that would say 7 to 7:15 breakfast.
Right.
7:15 to 7:18 use the bathroom. 7:19 to 7:25
it's all
team
so
meeting.
Itemized by the hour.
And some people might see that and be like, God, what a restrictive life.
That's miserable.
You're a mindless robot.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, and you can probably attest to this too, that was the most productive times of my life.
For sure.
If I look back to when I accomplished the absolute most, it wasn't just accomplished haphazardly when I felt like it.
Yeah.
It was consistent, directed effort.
Right.
And over time,
you never wasted a moment.
Success. And you weren't allowed to.
Yeah, there was not a moment wasted. You were always being productive in some sort, which made you feel productive. It made you feel like you weren't wasting your life away. There was a reason why you were doing what you were doing, whether you liked it or not. You know, there wasn't a moment where you were
have
just
time to be bored,
sitting around wishing you had something to do.
Didn't have time to be bored.
Yeah, I think that.
So when you got out, how did you? Because you're not sitting here. I didn't. Like, will somebody print off an itinerary for me?
You take plenty of time to yourself to no longer do the thing. The first thing every veteran does when they get out of the military is grow a beard.
Yep.
Because you've had to shave every single day
for so long.
Every
veteran just went to the NHL playoffs.
Straight to the veteran, straight to the, and they don't even groom it. It's just the dirtiest, grossest beard you can get. I'm not even going to touch my face, maybe even not my hair, for as long as I can get by until somebody tells me, like, dude, you
I'm
need
not
to
going
do
to
something
shave
about
until
that.
people start handing me money and saying, hey, man, I'm rooting for you.
If you're single, you stop until someone starts rejecting you, or if you're married, you stop until your spouse says, like, hey, you need to, it's getting a little out of control there.
So how long was that kind of intermission between?
For me, you know, I'm sure everyone's different, but for me, I went through probably like a 2-year period where I was just not myself. Not me then, not me now, not me before the military. I was just not even like, I went through like a 2-year period where I was like, I don't know. It was like existential crisis. I don't know who I am. What is life?
You got very like nihilistic, like what's the point?
Yeah, like I don't even know. Like why would I go get a haircut? It doesn't even matter. Like nothing matters.
What am I going to get in trouble if I don't?
Yeah, and the problem is that when you get out of that routine, and it doesn't matter what the routine is, but like when you get out of the routine of just knowing what is expected of you in the day. I mean, even down to like making your bed. There's even like, I mean, I know it sounds corny, but there's plenty of YouTube videos of like, like Jocko Willink talking about why you need to make your bed every morning. And he's like, man, if you don't make your bed every morning, you're gonna,
it's true. One of the most
weak and lazy.
One of the most famous college speeches. I don't know if it was it or somewhere, but that was from a 5-star general or whatever said, step 1, make your bed.
Yeah, and it just feels good to like, that's the first task you've accomplished in the day. And from there, you're like, well, I'm not going to go do all this effort at 5 a.m. to make my bed and then go sit on the couch for no reason. It's like, well, now I'm going to go make coffee, and then maybe I'll make breakfast, and then maybe I'll clean up after breakfast, and then maybe I'll go get dressed and shave. And it just becomes like now I feel worse about myself if I don't continue to complete tasks. If I don't continue to have some sort of mission for the day, of like, because I have to get ready for work, and if I just waste all of my morning before I get ready for work, I have to just jump into work. So you don't even get your feet wet.
But there was a 2-year period for you where that wasn't the case. You're
I mean, maybe
I'm going the complete opposite. I'm going to get up when I feel like it.
Well, so I've always been, me personally, I've always been the kind of person, I always get up early. I'm always like 30 minutes places before people, and it's miserable. Like I just sit there waiting on people, and it drives me nuts because it's like, good afternoon, welcome to work, because I've been there for forever. But that's just something I feel like you take away from the military as far as leadership goes. It's like you're the first one there, last one out. You should be there first so that you can kind of get a lay of the land, so that when everyone else shows up, you're ready to, whether it's at your job now or whether it was in the military, it's like you have to be the first one there so that when people show up, it's like the leader's the one that greets you. That's just kind of something that's instilled in you. But and I'm sure every other veteran is always 15 minutes early to everything. It's just kind of something that happens. But it wasn't even necessarily that. For me, it was more of just my headspace. It was, for me, it was just, I think I said it recently to you about how like life just didn't taste as good as it used to. It was just, for me, it was, I couldn't find joy in things that most people found joy in.
Or seemed to find joy.
Or seem to. Again, from superficially from the outside, maybe everyone is super happy doing the things that I couldn't find joy in. But I couldn't find joy in these things. I just didn't feel like I really cared about what I was doing. I just got to a place where I was like, well, and you said earlier Groundhog Day, and I've said it a million times. I was caught in Groundhog Day, but not in a good way. I was caught in, if you watch the movie Groundhog Day, at a certain point in the show, or in the movie,
starts to lose his mind.
He starts to kill himself every day, and in different ways, because he just runs out of things to do. So he's like, you know what, I guess it'd be more fun to stand in front of a train, or walk in front of traffic, or what does rat poison taste like? The movie got pretty dark for a while because it just became, and it's weird because it goes from you need routine and structure to this routine and structure that I'm currently in is not working for me. And it's a very strange transition to go from the routine and structure that you thought you hated because it was left, right, left, do the military routine and structure, to now you're in charge of that routine and structure. You're the one that sets this. You set the precedence for your day, and somehow you've allowed yourself to get into this Groundhog Day, this rut, at least for me. I've gotten into this place where every day's the same. I can't find any joy in it. I don't see a way out. I don't see an end to this because there's really no logical way. And believe me, you think through like, well, if I change this, would it help this? If I do this, would it help me not feel this way? And you start to run through those things, and you try to find a way out. And when you don't see one, there's a brick wall, and
so you see someone like this guy who killed himself, And while you're like, I'm Jordan, I'm not suicidal, you see how if I would have stayed on that path, I could see where that would become appealing.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever been on that path and ever gotten themselves down to a certain place. If it hasn't, I mean, I can't see how it hasn't crossed your mind. I think that I personally can sympathize with people that were like, you know what, that'd be kind of nice. If I just didn't feel this way anymore, if I just didn't feel like this any longer, that'd be pretty sweet.
Man, there's a country song, I think it was by a guy named Blaine Larson maybe, but it was about suicide. It was like, how do you get that lonely? And because that's a lonely place.
It's a dark, dark place.
And you see, like in the case of this guy, I mean, he had a wife, 2 kids, was working with veterans. You know, that's and it's
seemingly happy.
There's people that have talked about, man, I feel alone, and like, and I think this is as a veteran. If you could be in a room of 20 people, you're the only veteran. Like that's talking about. It's easy to be lonely when you're in a jail cell, but if you're in a group of people, to be lonely, that's where I would think, okay, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, we hit on it earlier, and it's not like from a holier than thou place of like I'm so much better than you because I did this. It's the fact that there are experiences and memories and things that you've done. Some of the worst parts of your life, some of the best parts of your life, some of the hardest struggles you've been through with certain people, that it's hard to find a new person that can replace those people when you haven't shared those experiences together. You haven't gone through.
They're not going to get it.
They're not going to get. I mean, you can tell all the stories you want. You can say, like, even if it's relevant to the conversation, like, oh, I've got this hilarious story. Let me tell you real quick. And they may say like, oh man, that's funny, that's really crazy. But they're not going to really truly get you and where you're coming from.
And you got to put on your badass veteran mask, right? I'm a civilian, so you're not going to tell, man, you know what, Matt, what was tough about being a veteran is when I got done, I had an existential crisis.
Right.
Like,
no,
you're going to be like, bro, when I did this, I was on a mountaintop and I was flying an eagle with a missile. Like, you're going to tell me what I want to hear.
Right.
You're a veteran. You almost have to perform.
It's hard to admit that the hardest time of your life was something that you went through afterward. When in hindsight, some of the things you went through before were leaps and bounds harder than some of the things you did after you got out. When you talk about how hard it is to change a diaper or to show up to this job you dislike, or it's like it's really hard to compare it to some of the things that you've done before. But for some reason, in your mind, you don't even see how, like, man, I've overcome so much. It was so much harder here. Why is it now all of a sudden I feel so weak? Why do I feel like I'm struggling so hard? Why can't I adapt to this new life?
This you talk about adapt and overcome. Man, this is a problem that no one thinks is a problem.
Yeah.
That I'm assumed, like, dude, he was a freaking combat veteran, dude. Like, you think
it's like he can
losing a job or being told no in a sales presentation is going to hurt him? God, no. He was shot at by terrorists.
Right.
But it's different, and that's the tough part because it's like you're drowning and no one even knows you're swimming.
Yeah. No one even knows you're struggling to swim.
And a lot of times veterans are drowning, they don't even know they're drowning. That's the scary part to be in.
Well, and that was where, when I hit my low place, when I went through what we've talked about is the worst part about it was realizing how far you'd gone down that road without realizing that you turned onto that road, where like you veered left onto this dark road.
You've just been driving.
You've just been like, I'm doing my thing.
Every morning you're like, no, I'm on this road.
And then all of a sudden you're lost and you're like, I don't even know where to turn around. There's no U-turn. I can't find a U-turn. The road's too narrow for me to make a 3-point. Like, where do I go from here? Do I just keep driving down this road that leads to that brick wall and I'm just going to crash into it? Or do I get out of the car? And I think that analogy can kind of lead to ask for directions. I mean, the biggest problem, and especially on like social media is great. It's a very powerful tool, whether it's for good or for evil, but it's a very powerful tool. And it's
like a hammer. In some people's hands, it's a weapon.
In some people's hands, it's a weapon, for sure. But in the hands of somebody that wants to be constructive and wants to build something and help, it can be powerful. And there's a lot of really good veteran groups and pages that often remind you to, it's often every day that I'll open up Instagram and see one of the 100 pages that I'll follow of some veteran community or group or person or whatever, who will say like, post a picture of some dude's face with the whole like fair winds following seas, lost somebody today, he, fought the fight, lost, whatever, the stereotypical thing. And at the bottom of every one of those posts is like, call your buddies, reach out to your buddies, call your friends, and just reach out to them and see how they're doing, ask them how they are, see where they're at in life, if they need help or whatever that the quintessential post is. It always ends with like, reach out to your buddies, because like you said, there's like the silent struggle. No one knows that you're having trouble swimming, but you're not gonna be the one that just randomly texts your friend from 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago and is like, hey man, I'm having a really hard time. I just want to talk to, I miss you, I want to talk to you, I love you. My buddies, like the word love, I love you is like, it's not weird to hear it. I was like, it's really open about like, bro, I love you. And if you need something, let me know. And it's said all the time, and like,
it has some gravity to that word.
Yeah, but not even just that. It's like, I don't have any shame in saying it. I love you, dude. Like, I really, you know what I mean? There's no shame in it at all. For me, it's like, I'm not expecting to get rejected by another guy that's going to be like, yeah, bro, cool, thanks.
Hey,
it's
I'm
like,
kind of loving someone else now.
Yeah, it's like, you always get it. Love you too, dude. You ever need anything, let me know. And those are the kind of people who, if you want to talk about people that understand your struggle, is the people that went through the same things you did at the time you did. It's reach out to the people that you did know. But I'm not, if I'm going through that struggle, I'm going to have a really hard time in the place that I am mentally to reach out to you and be vulnerable and weak, because you knew me at my strongest. You knew me when I was the toughest. You knew me as Sergeant Riley. And I don't want to come off as like, hey man, like I'm having a really hard time, I'm struggling, I need help, I don't know what to do, I'm lost. It's hard when you're in that moment to be the one that reaches out. What you're almost praying for is like the guardian angel to be the one that just sends you that random text like, are you okay? And then feel like it's acceptable enough to be like, no.
And here's the thing though, if someone sends you that, would your pride get in the way to say,
probably,
I'm doing fine?
Yeah, man,
he wouldn't send me that unless he was struggling. Let me be strong for him.
Right, like, oh yeah, man, like I want to seem like I'm doing okay. So it's like, man, I've got this job, I'm doing fine, I got the kid, I'm making some money, got a house here, every weekend I go do this thing. And but there's just, for some reason, there's just this lack of honesty of like, if you're not, when you go to the grocery store and it's like, hey, how are you? You just greet people, hey, how are you? Yeah. I'm good, how are you? It's like everyone's default is like, I'm good, how are you? I'm doing well. And no one's actually, like, if you were to walk up to the grocery store clerk and he were to say like, oh man, I'm having a rough day. He can't say that, because now he thinks he's putting you in a position as this customer to be like, well, now I have to play, therapist and ask him about his day. But what that person truly needs is for you to literally do that and be like, well, what's going on? I'm not in a rush, tell me about it. And I think most people may be under the assumption that they don't want their buddies to be in that position. They may have this person that they're trying to still be in that group, or maybe it's pride, or maybe it's just embarrassment. Maybe they don't want to be embarrassed.
I would say there's probably a lot of shame.
Yeah.
A lot of guilt. I mean, for dudes, our ego's huge, right? So
yeah.
Like, we have, and that's just how we're wired. I'm not saying that's some societal thing. We need men to be more vulnerable. No, we don't. But I think kind of one of two things happens, right? You think what you're going through is unique to you, and only you. No one else is going to understand.
Right. You're not going to get what I'm going through.
And I'm going to fix it before I call my buddies, because I want to.
Right.
Or you think what you're going through, you project it onto everybody, and everybody's fucked up. And if you think everybody's fucked up, what's the point of reaching out, right?
Yeah.
We're all fucked.
Because how's he going to help me? He's fucked up too.
He's done. We might as well all drink the Kool-Aid. And
one
just
of the
get
things,
it over with.
one of the things that really helped me when I was still in a really low point was one of my buddies got married, and at his wedding there was it was a really small wedding, but like 4 or 5 of my buddies that we were all in the same unit, same platoon, like really good buddies, showed up to the wedding, and we all had some time to just get. I mean, it was the first time I'd seen, especially all together. It was the first time we've been together in years, and we just started talking about like, what are you doing now? Like, how you been? What do you do for work?
You get over the niceties, and then you're like, all right, let's talk about some fun shit.
Yeah, well, but the thing was is that we started, I mean, we've always been really honest with each other. I mean, like, you've slept in the same sleeping bag with some of these dudes. It's like you're pretty close. So you do feel in person like you can finally be a little bit more sincere about what life is like. And man, the more we started, when one of my buddies was like, I hate what I'm doing for work.
Yeah, is anyone else here bored out of their mind?
Yeah, and when we all started,
bored.
like, we started connecting
Okay, good.
on it.
But it's not unique to me.
Yeah, and it felt like I was like, man, I'm so glad. I'm not glad to know they're struggling. What I'm glad to know is that it's not just me. Like, I'm glad to know that the same guys that I respect and love and have seen go through these incredible things, they're all going through the same things I'm going through.
He's not a pussy.
I know he's not. Yeah.
I'm starting to doubt whether I might be. Oh, he's not? Okay. It's kind of like when you're late somewhere and you look around, you're like, okay, I'm not the only one late.
Yeah, you're just like,
all right, good.
God,
Yeah.
he's not as late as me.
So I think part of what you're saying, if I can, and I got a ton out of this too. I've done podcasts and stuff for a project I'm working on called Beyond the Game, talking with other ex-athletes, and I started to notice those trends. And really, it was just, I was like, man, the NFL, is it like, to me, it felt like it's the hottest, it was a supermodel ex the hottest girl I ever dated, right? And then we broke up, and everybody was asking me, hey, when are you getting back with your ex? Or what was it like being with your ex? And everything was in the rear view, and you thought you were pining after your ex, and I think for veterans, they can think I'm still that soldier, like I'm pining after that guy, and you're kind of living in the past or you're living in the future. You're never kind of where you're at. And I started having conversations with these athletes, and they're like, yeah, man, it's like, exactly.
Yeah.
And I had to come to the realization, like, man, there's nothing that's going to replace that.
No.
Not even, I'm going to take the pressure off of everything else. That's not fair to your wife. It's not fair to your coworkers. It's not fair to the company you work with. Like, hey, company, you're not as badass as the Marine Corps.
Right.
No one's thanking me for
shooting machine guns.
No one's thanking me for my service and your job. And it's like,
Yeah.
God, man, that's a lot of pressure. But I think it's good to realize that, because if not, you're going to constantly unfairly compare what you're doing now with what.
Yeah, I mean, you're no longer living the same life. You have to find a new mission in the new life.
Yeah, talk about that. You mentioned that off camera, the finding a new mission.
Yeah, well, I mean,
sounds like a great slogan.
Well, I mean, like, everybody has. So you have a fire team, and you have a squad, and you have a platoon, you have a company. I mean, there's everything breaks down to the small unit level, and in each of those different teams and squads and platoons, there's different people that have different roles, and each role is vital to the mission. So if if you lose a machine gunner, you have one less machine gun. If you lose a vehicle, you have one less vehicle. So all of these different
for this to work,
jobs, yeah, I mean, it's like
a body.
It is.
A hand, an elbow.
Somebody had mentioned at one point that it's like a symphony. So imagine taking your symphony and all of a sudden one of your violinists is gone. It doesn't hit. It's not the same.
Strong as your weakest link.
It's not the same anymore without that one little piece. Even though there's multiple violinists, that one gone makes a huge difference. And when you have that one time, even if it's a minute little role, you have a very small role to play in a very big picture.
Think of me. I was a punter I played four or five snaps a game.
Right. But it was a crucial role, and when you played that role, it was vital to the game.
If I did it great, no one noticed me. If I screwed up,
Everybody know.
That's why people know my name.
When you have that small mission, that thing that drives you, the thing that you're like, look, sit here. Here's the gun. This is your thing. When that is your role to play, and you have this purpose, this thing that drives you, the thing that you have to be the most proficient at and get better at and better at. You have to be the best machine gunner on the line, or the best tow gunner behind missiles. I mean, you had to be the best at what you did.
People were depending on it.
And it was something that validated your existence. It was like, this is why you're here, man. Like when it comes time for the guns to roll, that's your moment. This is the crescendo. This is when you get to shine, and you're a part of the mission. And without you, we can't accomplish the mission. And when you lose that sense of purpose, I think it becomes something that is harder to fill, because no one really teaches you how to translate that to the civilian world. To find that new role in life where you are an essential part of the mission, and without you, we will fail.
Well, it feels like I'm a small part of I don't know what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're a small part of a much bigger mission.
Well,
all right, great. I'll swallow my pride. I'm really important. I'm over here. What's the point?
It's like after a 7-month deployment, my wife has learned how to live without me. You know, or my girlfriend's learned to live without me. She's learned how to do things that she normally didn't do because I wasn't there to help do it. Or, you know, even just my kid doesn't turn to me for help because I haven't been here for 7 months. So my kid turns to my wife or my girlfriend. Like there's so many people that don't need to depend on you because they're used to you not being around. So now that you're around, they're so conditioned to not asking you for the help. I remember coming home, and the first month or two after coming home is like, hello, I'm here, I can help, I can do that, I got you, like I'm here to do it, like this is what I do. And it's hard to fit back in. And the problem is that when you leave society and you go to the military and then you come back into society, it's really hard to fit back into society. No matter how many programs there are that help you.
Especially nowadays, how quickly things change. The same thing as someone goes to prison for 5 years, they come out, it's like, this is a different
Well, I mean,
world.
imagine somebody with the dark humor of being someone that's in the military coming into today's society where, words are violence. It's like these people, the people that come out of the military can't really identify with this stuff because they're like, you have no idea what violence is. This is all a coping mechanism. This is how we talk.
Coming back from Vietnam and getting spit on.
Yeah, you come back, and it's not. I mean, I've come back from deployments and been met by, we came back from our first deployment. And there was like a biker gang that met us at Cherry Point.
Motorcycle
club, and drove us back to Lejeune from Cherry Point. Escorted the buses. All of them had like 9 flags hanging off each bike, and it was like the dopest thing ever. It was so cool. It was just like, these guys are all out here. It was probably like 9 at night, and they stayed up, drove out there, took time out of their lives to just come do their thing. And like, that's what you would expect of like, man, this is really cool. I feel welcomed. It's nice to be home. But like to come home and to be spit on or have, drinks thrown at you or whatever, it's different. And it almost is like, well, then why was I over there? What was I doing?
And even if you come home and it's perfect, right? You got the motorcycle club that's blocking traffic. Like, hey, these are the badasses are home. The badasses are home. You have to take note. Eventually, you're back home. They're gone. Hey, man, awesome. You're sitting at your wife. You're looking at your wife. You're looking at your house that you fought hard to protect. You're like, what the hell do I do now? It's kind of like when you have a kid. Yeah. The balloons, they all deflate. Nobody's showing up, wishing you well wishes, and it's just you, your wife, and the kid. And you're like, all right, now what do we do?
I always picture the veteran in like a boardroom, in like a long sleeve Oxford shirt, covering his 2 sleeve tattoos. He's just thinking about shooting guns, dropping ordnance, shooting missiles, machine guns, going for hikes, climbing ropes, just sliding out of Ospreys, busting in doors, and somebody's just yapping on about some PowerPoint presentation.
You didn't put the cover sheet on your TFVS report.
And another big problem too is that when people come to you to complain about what's bothering their day, you're like, please.
Let me tell you.
You know what I mean? It's something that and it's really hard to start identifying with people and getting into a new community because you're just so different. You've been set aside from normal society that when you come back in, you're just like, this is not where I'm meant to be. And there's this sense of like identity crisis and loss, and like whether you wanted to get out or not, it is just like there's this time where you're like, this is not where I belong. I don't feel at home here. So everything is like, oh, I just feel like I'm a renter. I'm not really meant to be here. It's just something in between where I'm supposed to be. But you really don't see the end game.
You can see how depressing that would be too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was terrified. My biggest year in life would be the 1 year after college. That's why I said it's like dating the hottest girl on the face of the earth. You knew at some point the summer was going to end. You're going to have to break up. And she's just getting hotter, and people, and like, she's doing better than ever. You know, when you break up with someone, you secretly want your ex to like, their life to go down the
And when you
crapper.
see that ex doing things
She's moved on from you. That's
like when big events happen, like what recently happened in Afghanistan, as a veteran, you're just like, man, why did I get out? You start to rethink, like, man, I should be there. I should be there to help. I should be the one that's pulling
That's somewhere
people
I could
over.
actually add value.
Yeah, I could help there. This is where I could go back and have value. Exactly. My purpose, my mission, everything that drove me before, the thing I was willing to kill or die for is there. And you don't realize that your new mission, the thing that you should now be willing to kill or die for, is at home. And you have to figure out like what that is. You have to figure out what that is. And there's no like magic pill. The VA isn't going to give you this like answer. A psychiatrist isn't going to give you this answer. You have to it's something that you have to figure out for yourself, because in order to become 100% sold on the mission, you have to be completely bought into it. You have to believe in it. You have to know that you can succeed. You have to have the confidence that like, I'm going to go into this and we're going to win. And if you don't identify that for yourself, you can tell me like, Jordan, tomorrow you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do great at it. It's like, you can tell me that, but it doesn't necessarily mean I believe it. But if I'm the one that comes to the realization of like, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up, I'm going to work out. I'm going to do at least 45 minutes to an hour in the gym. I'm going to make breakfast, eat. I'm going to cook for my family. I'm going to make I'm going to clean up. That way when I leave for work, I'm prepared for the day, and I'm going to go to work and I'm going to crush it. I know what I have to do for the day. If I come to those realizations, I've now set the mission and I'm in charge, and it's up to me to drive the mission. If you can do something like that in your own life, you have the opportunity to when you do find that brick wall, because you're still going down that road that you're lost on, when you do find that brick wall, you can either break through it and keep driving, or you're just going to get crushed.
Yeah.
But it has to be you that does it. Your buddies are going to help, and you have to reach out to your buddies, but it's going to take you figuring out. I mean, the way that I was able to kind of, and I'm still coming up the hill. I went down and I hit the valley. I'm not over the crest of that hill. I'm still coming up the hill, and I don't know how long it takes. I think it probably takes a long time.
You're never going to get there.
Maybe not. Maybe there's a lot of like false crests.
It's like chasing the horizon, right?
Yeah.
You still chase it, but the farther you...
I might, but I think at a certain point, it starts to round out. And you may not be at the top of the hill, but the climb gets a little bit easier. But it really does take you figuring out yourself, like what is it going to take to drive you to continue on? What is it going to take you to pick yourself up out of this place? Maybe ask for some help, talk to your buddies, see if some of your friends are going through some of the same things you are. And then, I mean, just like we talked about before, it blows my mind, even in my own life, even for myself, it blows my mind. Some of the places I've been mentally to have to like overcome certain things, especially physically, to where like you're like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to drop this. I'm done. I can't physically do this anymore. And then you don't even realize like you can go for another 20 miles. And you're like, well, how did I go another 20 miles when 20 miles back I thought I was done? And you've brought yourself, and that's all an internal battle. I mean, there's some place, especially like anybody that understands like hiking, you put a lot of weight on your back and you just walk. And there's nothing to occupy your mind but how much it sucks. And how much you just wish you could pass off the gun, or you could drop your pack off and just go home. And there's a place that you get to where you go kind of internal and you just fight yourself. And you literally fight yourself. And you're like, why are you like, just keep, it's literally left. It's almost ironic that the whole like military, the the stereotypical like left, right, left, right. Well, you get to a point where like take a left step, take a right step, take a left step, and you literally have to talk yourself through each step.
What did Dory say on Finding Nemo? Just keep
swimming. Just keep swimming. Yeah.
Guys, there is some truth to that. We going through hell, keep on going. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to. It's literally a step at a time. But you've overcome so much before. You've been to these places before in your mind. You have to be able to go internal again and just be like, you need to get through today to get to tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
Because you have to live to get to tomorrow. And then when you get to tomorrow, figure that out. Don't worry about the next day. Worry about today. Get through today. And if you need help, ask for help. If you got to pass the gun off, take a break.
And what I would encourage too, so it is to reach out to your buddies and find out they're struggling. That's nice, but that's not where you want to live, right? Mm-mm. It's not going to help someone who's fat to go sit around and talk to other fat people about all the fat food that they eat that makes them fat, right? But it's good to like, all right, I'm not unique in this. All right, and has there ever been anyone who went through something like you who succeeded? Because if they did, all right, that means there's proof.
Right. What is the key that you used?
Someone did it. I remember when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. Like it was said to be physically impossible to break it. And now it's like high school kids are breaking the 4-minute mile. So what's helped me big time too is talking with athletes who successfully transitioned, because success leaves clues, right? Just like you go to a higher ranking officer to say, hey, especially, man, you and Mikhail talked about that, like officers should come up, they should go through the infantry, to do everything like that. But someone that I'm bought in, to what you do, I want to emulate what you do. Right? Surround yourself with guys, this is something that's helped me out so much. Never take advice from someone who you would not gladly trade places with.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, hate never comes from above, right? So I think if we can put a bow on this, it's suicide is something that's terrible. But it's something that, if we're honest with ourselves, dude, I get it. I'm not judging that person because I'm not like, oh, I never had to struggle with that.
Yeah.
You saw it. I saw it with myself. I didn't have to witness a buddy getting killed or anything like that, but I had to witness the drop in status.
Yeah.
Like everybody wanting to talk about your past life, and you're sitting here like, shit, what have you done for me lately? Like you're a former soldier, right? You're a future badass. What are you current at? Because life, dude, it's just a series of right nows. That's it.
Yeah.
The past was a right now. The future is a right now.
You need to make the next right decision. And then
just make a decision.
Make that one, move on to the next right decision. The most important thing to realize is that you are better off here, regardless of what you're going through. Because I mean, even if you had the worst time in the military, you were like, oh, all I have to do is go, I got 2 years left, 1 year left, 6 months till I get out. There was always a timeline, and eventually this will end. It's ended for everyone who hasn't succumbed to the pressure of what they're going through. It has ended. You just have to persevere through it, and you have to realize you are not weak. Like, you are not weak to be going through it. You just have to realize that right now you're at a place of weakness, and you've been weak before, and you've overcome things. So you need to realize, like, right now you are in a period of weakness, but you're a strong individual who has done way harder things. If you need help, talk to somebody and get help. Mm-hmm. But you have to figure out how, or what is it going to take for you to persevere and just make the next right decision. If that is, I mean, for me, I've been saying for a long time, like, man, if I could just go camping alone, take a weekend out in the woods by myself, no friends, no nothing, just go spend some time out by myself. Give me a chance to just...
Sounds kind of like the Unabomber.
Decompress, reflect on everything, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but
turn my phone off. Turn off CNN, Fox News.
But don't bring a friend. Don't bring anyone else. Just go you. Figure it out. And your thing may be something else. You may just find something else is your thing. But you've been able to talk yourself through things a lot worse before. Figure out what it's going to take. Talk to yourself. One of the biggest things, just quickly, is when you go through a lot of physical things that are hard to overcome, you start to get really in tune with your body. Like if you need electrolytes, like, hey man, I need to pop a mustard packet or take a packet of salt or something that's going to help me get through. Or I need some candy. I need what like I'm reaching a breaking point. I know how far I can go because I know how far I've taken myself. I know what it takes for me to break because I've been to my breaking point before. So if you're really that in tune with yourself physically, if you've been to some pretty places where you struggled mentally, you've been to those places before, you know your breaking point. You need to be realistic with yourself and realize that you've overcome some of those things before. What did it take at the time for you to overcome those things? What did you say to yourself? How did you think? What was the thing that made you push? And how can you apply that to today to push you through what you're going through now? How do you keep pushing?
It reminds me of when they were talking about putting a man on the moon.
Yeah.
And I thought it was during Kennedy, right? But I believe, but he asked some, I don't know, astronaut or whatever. He's like, what's it going to take to put a man on the moon? And the guy simply answered, the will to do so.
Yeah.
That's it, man. There are a lot of people that are able. It's the willing part.
Right.
Right? And you've done it before through arguably way worse shit. Use that and be like, shit, if I did it before, I can do it. Because if you believe you can figure it out, the freaking logistics will take care of itself.
Yeah.
That shit, but if you're constantly questioning if I can actually do it, you're going to second guess everything, dude.
I think a lot of it, though, it's all easier said than done.
So much.
It's
simple, not easy.
Yeah, it's it's easy for me to say in hindsight, like, oh yeah, man, I overcame this, I overcame that, I did this, I did that, I thought about this, and now I'm here, and look at me as a success story. It's so easy to say that. I think I said a long time ago how like it's easy for Tony Robbins to sit up on stage and talk to you about how to make millions of dollars. It's like, well, you're rich. It's like, of course it's easy. You're not currently poor, and I'm currently poor. So how do you identify with me? But
what does Drake say? People with their money say that money isn't everything. It's like, yeah.
But I think that one of the other things is just realizing that like some people have struggled too, and you genuinely do have to be willing to reach out to those people, because I think personally, I would love to help, because and I would love to go even deeper into some of the darker things that where I've been with people one-on-one. If you're struggling, I think personally, it'd be awesome to share my story with you, because I think that if hearing that you're not alone would help, then I'm willing to be pretty open about some of the things I've thought of, if it will, keep...
Iron sharpens iron, man.
Yeah, and I think that, and one of the biggest things is like what we said, it kind of, the trend is that, people tend to shut down and try to be stronger than they feel like they are right now, and then no one really hears about the struggle that they're going through, and then you truly feel like you're alone. You feel like you're the only one that has those thoughts. You feel like you're the only one that's thinking about that. You're the only one that's going through this dark place. And feeling alone makes you end up feeling like the only way out is something, it's by your own hand. You're alone, so the only person that can help you is you, and the only way out is to make a big mistake. I think it's a big mistake.
So I think a big thing I'm hearing from you, and definitely to put a bow on this, and we'll talk about this more and more, is there's a difference between preventative medicine and like chemo, right? What you're talking about is preventative medicine, right? You don't have to wait until you've got the gun in your mouth,
right?
To ask for help.
You can start a lot sooner.
This is preventative medicine.
Yeah.
This is shit you need to do before you think that's actually an issue, and just understand it's arrogant to think you couldn't end up there.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think anyone set out to join the military, risk life and limb to do that, to commit suicide. So it breaks my heart.
Yeah, breaks mine.
It's so preventable. Like, dude, reach out, get around some dudes, because we'll say it to you straight. Like, Jordan would call me a pussy if I'm sitting like, dude, you got a kid. How selfish can you be?
Right.
And realize, man, like, I'm pretty passionate about this, but dude, it is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
Just keep telling yourself that, because it's permanent. You don't come back from that, and that problem's temporary. So I don't know.
That problem does go. It can.
It'll
end.
be replaced.
I'm not saying it will end, but it can end. It might take work, but you're no stranger to work. It will end. It just doesn't seem like it. So a great resource is the Veteran Crisis Line. We have the number written up on our board so I can remember it, but it's 1-800-273-8255. And when you call, you press the number 1. Or you could text 838-255. The Veteran Crisis Line is a program with a lot of professionals that do it for a living. They talk to thousands of people who call. And they're kind of like your first resource as far as if you're in a really bad place and you just need somebody to kind of talk to about, maybe even just talk you off a ledge. 1-800-273-8255, press 1. But honestly, at the Fully Vetted Show is the Instagram for the show, which is like the best way to contact the show in general if you're trying to get in touch with us. Me personally, because if you want to reach me, get on Instagram at the Fully Vetted Show, and if
or leave a comment on this video. Leave a comment on this video.
Comment on the video. I'll reach out if you comment. But if you don't want to comment on the video that's public and you just want to like hit me up privately, go to at the Fully Vetted Show and just hit me up. I would love to talk about it. If
we'll probably set up an email like
eventually
Jordan at fullyvettedshow.com.
Yeah, and we'll get that going eventually. But for now, just hit up the Instagram and talk to me. I'll be as open as you want. You don't even have to do the talking. If you just want to hear my story on a personal level, off camera, I have no problem talking about it if it'll help.
If you just want to get around some dudes, that's honestly would solve a lot of dudes' problem, dude. A freaking lone soldier is a dead soldier. So like, get around some dudes. And that's something about doing this show for me is the idea of like building a community of especially local veterans. But if we, I don't care where you live, but even locally, just building a community of veterans that just becomes part of like a, it's hard for me to find veterans. It's hard. I mean, it's not like you walk around going like, hey, bro, you a vet? You a vet? It's kind of hard to know, like, oh, were you in the Air Force, Army, whatever? You can't just. Sometimes you can spot those people, but you're not just going to instantly become pals. But if you can create some sort of community and help in any way with a support group, I think if anything comes of this show, for me personally, that would be my mission. Would be to just try to have some sort of group of local veterans who would be able to support each other. You got to replace your tribe, man.
Yeah. And it's hard to replace the tribe with anyone else who wasn't a part of another tribe that you kind of identify with. So,
I mean, that can be the mission, right? It won't be satisfied till that number's to 0.
Yeah, I mean, and it may be unrealistic, but if that's the mission,
hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah, like you can have a big, hairy, audacious goal, and it may be that way, but if you get it down to half of what it is now, hell yeah.
Dude, and we're going to be planning some fun stuff.
Yeah, we're going to do some cool stuff.
Like, yeah, it's not fun for dudes, but hey, let's talk about our feelings. But we got to try and recreate some of the badassery.
We might.
Butts and bullets.
If anything, we can
There's
make
bullets
fun.
and hot chicks. Veterans will be there.
Yeah, usually. Yeah. But other than that, really though, hit up the Instagram at the Fully Vetted Show. Follow Small Town Big Sound. We'll put out a video almost every week. And if you need anything, reach out for real.
Absolutely.
Matt, that was cool. Thanks for doing this conversation.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being intuitive to some of the same problems, and finding a correlation too is cool from one industry to another.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So other than that, maybe next time we'll do something a little bit lighter. But for now, just stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching.